Hey guys, it's Elle, bringing you a video that's so belated I question whether it was even worth it to upload it at all. So a few Saturdays ago, I spent a day in Tampa, Florida at Metrocon with my friend Platy and her family. It was the first convention that I ever went to and I had a lot of fun, but I was also completely exhausted from all the walking that we did, and it took me about a week to recover when I came back. I knew I really wanted to make a vlog of my time there when I got back, but because of how wiped out I was and the fact that my idea to make a vlog in the first place came at the last minute, it ended up taking me a while to get around to figuring out how I wanted to present the video and to recharge myself enough to the point where I could really focus on making a halfway decent vlog without it being really shoddy or rushed. But hopefully that's okay and you can forgive me for uploading this video 3 weeks late. So the Metrocon day trip would mark the 4th time I would be meeting Platy in person, since we had been internet friends since 2018. The very first time we met was in 2021, and on that same visit, Platy also brought me amigurumi she made herself of Tsumugi Shirogane and Hifumi Yamada as a belated birthday present because I shipped them like FedEx and it's mostly her fault, so I knew right away that bringing them to my first anime convention was absolutely necessary. Come on guys, you're literally in the thumbnail, so you knew this was coming. In general, I'm going to be talking about Shiromada relatively frequently throughout this video, so if you hate these two characters like a normal person, then this is your warning to peace out while you still can, because this isn't the video for you. I'm a loser. You still here? Okay, cool. So yeah, Platy and I first met in person last year, and I think it was within a week after we got back that we started discussing going to Metrocon together the following year because her dad just happened to find out about it and wanted to invite us. Obviously, a lot can happen in 13 months, and there was a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of anxiety leading up to it right when we started preparing to go, but all things considered, we ended up not having many problems. My itinerary that day was to go to the Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc event at 11 AM, the Enamel Pin Trading meetup at 1 PM, Tokyo Mew Mew Smoothie's first muting at 7 PM, the Carolina Manga Library that was open all day, and the Merchant Hall, of course. I also wanted to go to the Cafe Kita Maid Cafe, the Pitching and Creating an Original Animated Project panel, the Let's Design a Magical Girl panel, or even the World Building 101 panel, but I never got around to it. Tampa's a pretty far drive for us, so I had to wake up at 3 AM and be on the road at 4:30 just to make sure we would get there with plenty of time to do everything on the list. Fortunately, we ended up getting there pretty early, even when we were standing around in the parking garage for 10 minutes trying to figure out how to do the meter thing, and Platy had a bunch of alarms installed on her phone that were set to go off around 5 to 10 minutes before every event we wanted to go to was going to start. Right away, as soon as we got into the building, I found a King Dedede cosplayer upstairs, and once we got our armbands, I saw someone else off in the crowd cosplaying as Waluigi, wearing a maid dress. I guess he overheard me fangirling from the distance, because when I returned to my group to tell him about him, he was right behind me and asked if I wanted a picture with him. Obviously, I said yes. He also told us that Maid Wario was supposed to be there, but he wasn't able to make it for Metrocon, but it still wouldn't be the last time I would spot a full-grown man wearing a frilly maid dress that day. It was amazing. There were so many great cosplays throughout the whole day, and it was really cool to see representation for more niche series or fandoms that aren't what's currently trending, like Lego Indiana Jones, the Penguin from Batman, Marotsuki and Paniko from Yu and Nikki, a legion of like 15 Luffys from One Piece, and my personal hero, Pepsi Man! Take me by the hand, lead me to the can! At one point, I also found a Sephiroth cosplayer, and I really wanted to get a picture with him while blasting One Wing Kong from my phone, but he was busy with a photo shoot and I didn't want to interrupt him, so I went somewhere else nearby and then I never saw him again. That day, Platy was on a mission to find as many Tokyo Mew Mew cosplayers as she could, since she drew and printed out a set of stickers of the 5 girls in their reboot anime outfits and put them in little origami envelopes to hand out to people. So we were both on the lookout for them together, and she got to give out all her sticker sets. Danganronpa had a lot of cosplayers too, including, but by no means limited to, about 5 Junkos, about 7 Kokichis, and at least 3 Chiakis, and one of them was this absolutely adorable tiny toddler Chiaki. Oh my gosh. And their parrot was cosplaying as Denji from Chainsaw Man. I actually didn't know what to expect from the Trigger Happy Havoc panel that morning, since the site description just said, "Do you wish to be inside Danganronpa THH? Well, now you can. Meet all your favorite Danganronpa characters and play games with them. A lot of fun, but with a pinch of mystery and killing, tilde." Which could mean just about anything, but it ended up being a kind of LARPing event run by a group cosplaying as Celestia, Kyoko, Junko, Mukuro, Monokuma, Byakuya, Toko, and Kiyotaka. Although I do wish there was someone representing Sakura so I could ask her to step on me. Anyway, so the panel was split into 3 parts, the first being a murder mystery skit between the 8 characters, the second being an audience participation game where one of the cosplayers had their back turned and someone else picked 3 people from the crowd, and then the character would ask the participants a series of 3 questions and pick a winner based on whose answers they liked the best. I think the prize was some merch and a bag of Jolly Ranchers or something. So for example, when it was Celestia's turn, one of the questions she asked was, "What's your favorite dessert?" And one of the participants said, "Your mom!" Oh my god, everyone in the room cracking up. And then finally there was a Q&A between the characters and the audience. So me and Platy and Platy's niece were sitting in the back of the room, and the mic the group was using was kind of dead, so unfortunately I could barely hear anything they were saying. Which meant that I missed the rule that the hosts weren't supposed to know who the participants were during the game until they picked their winner. And most of the people playing were cosplayers, LARPing characters from different fandoms, which meant Platy kept having to shush me while I was squealing over everyone's cosplays. When it was Kiyotaka's turn, 2 of the 3 participants were Sora from Kingdom Hearts, and the supreme overlord of ice himself, Gundam Tanaka! I already love Gundam as a character, and the person cosplaying him absolutely nailed his personality and mannerisms. One of the questions Kiyotaka asked was like, "Are you one for following the rules?" or something like that, and Gundam's answer was along the lines of, "When it comes to my 4 dark days of destruction, no rule is too sacred." He even had the hamster sewn onto his jacket and scarf and everything. Oh, I was so hoping he would win, but the prize ended up going to Sora instead. Although when it was Junko's turn, one of the audience members playing with someone in a Mikan Tsumiki cosplay, and not only was she also perfectly in character for her, but Junko actually picked her as a winner, which made me really happy for her. It was perfect. In short, it was a lot of fun. Celestia was the one hosting the event, and she completely stole the show. She was absolutely hilarious, and she too embodied the character flawlessly. Although there was one time where she broke character because she couldn't do mental math, and someone in the audience heckled her about it during the Q&A. Like, if you're the ultimate dang gambler, how come you can't do math? But even out of character, she was really adorkable. Like, before the event even started, and while everyone was gathering in front of the room where it would take place, she ran up and clumped Kyoko's squealing, "Kiri, Kiri!" when she finally showed up, and it was so cute. But yeah, speaking of Celestia in the Q&A, since I had the Shiromara amigurumi with me the whole time, that meant there was an opportunity for mischief making that had the potential to be either really funny or really embarrassing, or both. And after much deliberation, I decided it was worth the risk, so I finally raised my hand and said that I had a friend who wants to ask Celestia a question. Then I whipped out the Hifumi plush and yelled out, "Will you watch Princess Pickles with me, my dear bunny?" And she shouted back, "No! Keep that stuff away from me!" I actually got that part on video in most of the event in general, but then it got tongue-tied trying to say the full name of the anime and had to start over, so now I'm too embarrassed to rewatch my recording of it. Then once the panel ended, I went up to Celestia and asked if I could get a picture of her, then brought out Hifumi again so they could do a photo op, and she was just like, "I have to hold this thing!" The poor girl was in such a good mood both times I interacted with her until Hifumi got involved. Then when we went to get lunch, we found the Junko and Monokuma cosplayers again, and I got to take a picture of them with Samugi. They loved both of the amigurumi and told Platy that she was really talented, so that must have made her feel good. This doesn't really have anything to do with anything, but most of the Danganronpa cosplayers running the event were wearing wigs made of nylon hair, but Junko's wig was made from combed yarn, and it was very noticeably softer and poofier than everyone else's. At one point during the Q&A, someone in the audience asked if they could touch Junko's hair. After lunch, we popped inside the manga library for a bit, which I really wanted to go to because I'm about 10 years behind on the manga I wanted to read when it first came out. And I was hoping this would be the place for me to read them to see if I liked them before buying them online, since most of them are out of print at this point. And oh boy, I found some treats! Right away I saw that they had all 4 volumes at pre-tier, which I was absolutely ecstatic about since I've always been curious about that franchise ever since I first got to anime, so you bet your butt I'm gonna get the complete series now. There were so many hidden gems there that if it wasn't for the single table in the back of the room that was specifically set aside for comics you were allowed to buy, then I probably would have bought up a third of what was on the shelves. So before we left the manga library, we had to get a bag check done, and the person behind the desk said that they liked the Tsumuki doll that they spotted when they were doing the bag check, and showed me a Ryoma Ida bag that they were working on, which gave me the confidence to reveal that I also had Hifumi with me. This also happened with the Junko and Monokuma cosplayers we ran into at lunch, and both times I was kind of self-deprecating about showing him to them, saying something like, "Oh look, I also brought this loser along with me." But during the back check, the person doing it said that they actually really liked Hifumi. I said that it was really valuable to find other people that genuinely liked him, and they answered with, and I quote, "He's a feminist, we love that!" Oh, holy smokes, that killed me. I also feel really guilty because I took the time to bring the Amigurumi with me, specifically because it was an anime convention and it would be the perfect place for photo ops, but they actually stayed in my bag for the majority of the time. I didn't take much photo or video in general, just because there was so much to see and do, and I wanted to stay in the moment, so I didn't have my phone on me constantly, but I was also really worried about being harassed for repping my rare pair if I had the dolls out where people could see them. Like, you hear horror stories about people being creepy towards cosplayers and stuff, so that made me really afraid of somebody doing something crazy that resulted in my irreplaceable plushies being destroyed. Last year I took Yamigurumi with me to a local comic shop to take photos of them, and I legitimately felt like I was in the middle of a crime. I was constantly making sure there was nobody around when I had them out because I was so scared of what they might say. However, now that I've actually been to my first con, I feel a little more confident about having them out more often if I were to do this again. And hopefully I'll have another opportunity to do something like this in the future, because there's a lot of things I do differently in general. Like making sure the rest of my group is with me instead of assuming they are, because I kept getting lost constantly. Okay, I don't know how I ended up here. I keep getting lost from everybody. I thought I was with Platy and our parents, but I just ended up here. I'm lost, but there's red eye circulation play, so I can't be too upset. I don't think I'm meant to be here. I need to find my family. On our way to the pin trading meetup, Platy and I passed by some people playing a red light green light-ish game where they were holding these plastic torch things and they had to snuff out their opponent's torch without letting the opponent snuff out theirs, and if you move too quickly your light will be put out that way too. They invited us to play with them, and I said yes, but Platy said no, so me and the guy who asked started chanting, "Peer pressure! Peer pressure!" over and over again like a bunch of drunk college students. I ended up being really bad at the game. The first time was because I had a hard time understanding the verbal instructions without seeing them put into practice, and then after I lost, I wanted to try again to see if I do any better now that I had a better grasp of the rules. Spoiler alert, I didn't. And then after I was done, the guy gave me a flyer for the con they were a part of, Necronomicon, so that was nice of him. After that brief detour, we went into the room where the pin trading event was held, and it was really nice and calm. The rules were basically don't be mean to people who didn't want to trade with you, and that snacks were mandatory. They brought a whole bunch of chocolate Hello Panda cookies, and I made sure to set some aside for the other people in our group when we met back up with them. Some people were interested in trading, some were there on behalf of other pin collectors that they knew, and there were others who just wanted to look around and see what everyone else brought, or just sitting in the corner meeting with friends, and it was super pleasant. So many people had Ida bags, or a bunch of different boards and display hoops, and then there was me who only had 3 pins up for sale. Sayaka from Madoka Magica, and Panty and Stocking Anarchy. I never watched Panty and Stocking because it's too spicy for me, even though I love the art style. And Mami is who carries the title of my favorite Madoka character, so I thought maybe someone there would be willing to give my pins a good home and I'd be able to find something I like more during the event. I was actually kind of surprised at how long it took me to find someone willing to trade because they didn't recognize what anime my pins were from. To be honest, I was mostly worried about being insulted for having Sayaka with me because I still remember how much hatred she got back when Madoka still had that new anime smell, but I'm glad nothing like that happened at least. It took me a while to find someone to make my first trade with, but when I did come across them, I saw that they had a display of absolutely adorable pins, most of which they bought from the artist Blush Sprout. And right when I got there was immediately after they finished trading away a Hamtaro Ham Ham Heartbreak pin, which absolutely destroyed me. Hamtaro was the first anime I ever watched, and Ham Ham Heartbreak is my serotonin game, so knowing that I was seconds away from walking home with that pin was such a tragedy. Fortunately, they had no short supply of cute pins, and lucky for me, they love Panty and Stocking, so I got to take 2 of their cute pins with me. When they asked me which ones I liked, it was all a better question would be which ones do I not like? It took me a lot longer to find someone who wanted to take Sayaka because, again, nobody knew who she was, but when I did, I was able to get a Bulbasaur pin for Platy. At the end of the video, I'll show my haul of everything I got from the con, so make sure to stick around for that. After the pin trading event, we went to the merchant hall, which is where we ended up having the most downtime. I really wanted to take my time and look around at each booth individually to properly see what merch they had, and by the time we got to the 3rd booth, I found something I really wanted to buy, but once I made my purchase, I realized that I was completely alone. So I spent about 10 minutes pacing back and forth through the merchant hall looking for everyone else and trying to call them until I found my family and Platy's dad. Then the adults were trying to find Platy and her niece for like half an hour. And the entire time I was just unbelievably stressed out and upset. What's funny is that episode 3 of Tokyo Mew Mew New came out 3 days later, which I knew was the one where Ichigo got told off after getting separated when everything started going down at the zoo. And I literally cannot overstate how much I related to Aoyama in that moment. It was a really long wait before we found Platy and her niece again, and Platy had already finished all of her shopping because she didn't hear us calling her, so it was just me and her niece who still needed to buy stuff. Once we finally reunited though, Platy told me that there was an artist who was selling charms of all 48 Danganronpa characters, so naturally my first thought was, oh yeah, it's Shiromada time! It's actually kind of funny because when all of the new merchandise was coming out in honor of the 10th anniversary and the release of Danganronpa Decadence, I was tempted to get some of it so I could make a Shiromada shrine, but I didn't want to actually pursue it because I just thought it would seem like an insult toward the Amigurumi since they were one of a kind. But Platy didn't seem opposed to it, and she was the one who brought it up, so I guess I have a Shiromada shrine now. You got a discount if you bought 3 charms, so I got a Gundam one from Platy since she also really likes him. They also had charms of Gonta and Maki, but they were sold out, and I don't know if that makes me sad because they're 2 of my favorite V3 characters, or that makes me happy because they deserve to have enough people buying merch of them that they run out of stock. There was also a big section where there were a group of artists selling leather fashion accessories and super chunky animal hybrid amigurumi. And there was a hermit crab tarantula hybrid plushie that Platy's niece saw and that she really wanted, but she was also on the fence about buying. So her way of determining whether or not she would get it was by having me play a game of rock, paper, scissors against her. If she won, she would pass it over, but if I won, then she would buy it. This is probably a naughty thing to do, but we ended up tying twice in a row, which made me realize that she was relying on a pattern when deciding what hand to throw next, so I used that to my advantage to secure my win since I knew which move she was gonna choose and she ended up getting the plushie. I wish I could have gotten the name of the artist because now I want my own chunky amigurumi and I want to try looking for them online. So one half of the merchant hall was for independent artists and small businesses, and the other half carried a bunch of mass-produced products and merchandise. There were 2 different booths completely separate from each other that were both selling a huge assortment of video games, containing everything within the 1st and 8th generations, with one booth selling English language games as well as some handheld consoles, and the other booth selling Japanese language games. I had never seen games from the NES or Famicom series of consoles in person before, so it was really cool. There was a bunch of other stuff for sale, like the CDs, DVDs, and art books, things like that. I was so close to getting the Madoka Magica You're Not Alone official art book, as well as a ton of scale figurines. There were so many that I wanted, but they were all really expensive, so that was a dangerous place to be in. Another reason why we spent the most downtime at the merchant hall was because I kept needing to sit down because I had done so much walking up to this point that my entire body was just screaming out in pain, and there were multiple times where I almost completely fell over while walking or standing still because my feet were giving out on me. There were a bunch of booths that had stuff I really liked, but I wanted to return to later and see if I still wanted to buy it when I came back to it. But most of the time I ended up not coming back to the booth, and I didn't get nearly as much merch as I thought I would, just because I was tired of walking and literally had to force myself to browse the rest of the merchant hall. On top of that, I didn't want to throw all of my money away on things I wanted just because I could afford it, especially since I would have to figure out how to store and display it once I got home, and I think this was a good call, but at the same time I kind of bummed out that I missed certain things that grabbed my attention when I first locked eyes on it. There were a few times where I was worn out and made some mistakes trying to complete my purchases, which were kind of embarrassing, but the people running the booths were incredibly nice and forgiving about it, and were just like, that's okay, it's a con, everybody's scatterbrained here. I was also really hoping to find Ali-chan at the con and possibly order a commission from her, since I knew she had been a guest there before, but she wasn't there. So once Platy and I were done at the merchant hall, the two of us went back to the manga library for a little bit to relax, and then to Smoothie's first muting. I took it at face value and thought the actual voice actresses for Tokimimi Nu got invited to Metrocon as guests, but it was actually a similar situation as the Danganronpa panel, where there were a group of Tokimimi cosplayers LARPing as the characters, and they named their group in honor of Smoothie. So the group consisted of Ichigo, Mint, Lettuce, Pudding, Zakuro, Quiche, Tart, and Keiichiro. Platy and I happened to spot the two gentlemen cosplaying as Keiichiro and Mint earlier in the day dancing, and I took footage of it to send to my friend Hika Yagami, since anyone who knows her knows how much she adores Keiichiro. And it was so cool to see someone cosplay as him, since it's so rare. Just like the Danganronpa panel, the Tokimimi panel was split into 3 parts, which was a Q&A with the characters and 2 audience participation games. And this time, Platy and I were sitting near the front and could hear everything a lot better. The first question someone asked during the Q&A was where Ryo was, and Keiichiro answered that he was having car problems with his SUV. So then I asked where Pai was, and Quiche and Tart said that he was dead and they ate him. DK! Pai is dead! DK! A few of the other questions included someone asking why Keiichiro was such a lady killer, what was inside the pink semi in episode 1 of the reboot anime, for Quiche and Tart to have a rock paper scissors rematch, what everyone's favorite foods were, with Pudding insisting that her favorite vegetable was pudding, and why Ichigo chose Aoyama over Quiche, which turned into Ichigo saying that Aoyama had a sword as the Blue Knight, and Quiche aggressively slamming his sai on the table, and then very quickly devolved into innuendos about the sizes of Quiche and Aoyama's swords. There were multiple times throughout the event where Ichigo just hid behind her chair and sank down to the floor to the point where only her tail was visible. I asked another question later on to Keiichiro, asking what career he thought Ryo would have if his parents survived and he didn't start the Mew project, but then later on I got the idea to ask an absolutely absurd question inspired by Wolf of Power, which, if you don't know what that is, go look it up on TV Tropes. It's basically the Tokyo Mew Mew fandom's version of My Immortal in terms of notoriously badly written fanfiction, and it's a thing of beauty. So as soon as I got my chance, I asked all of the characters what they would do if they traveled back in time, and the only way for them to return to their own time was to cooperate with the Pirates of the Caribbean and Squidward. Yes, that is an actual plotline in the fanfiction. I swear everyone was dead silent for like 5 seconds. And that's how we got Mew Mew Squidward. Let me explain. So after everyone tried to make sense of the pirate thing, Lettuce was like, what's a Squidward? So Keiichiro said that he never heard of Squidward, thus leading him to believe that it was an endangered animal. And then when he said that he wanted to protect Squidward, somebody in the audience booed. Pudding was very enthusiastic about the whole thing, so I'm glad there was at least one person who wasn't completely stumped with abject bemusement. After the Q&A was the first audience participation game, which was Mew Mew Mad Libs, where Ichigo asked the crowd to fill in the blanks and Keiichiro did a dramatic reading of the final story. The complete version was a very, very strange synopsis of the Tokyo Mew Mew plot, where there were 57 Mew Mews, Ichigo transformed into a clown, Mint is stinky and slimy, Lettuce is crunchy and moist, and Quiche is obsessed with oranges, among many other things that weren't correct. When the stinky and slimy adjectives were first suggested, Ichigo was just like, oh, this is perfect! And I was the one who offered the crunchy adjectives, so the rest of the Mew Mews were very protective of poor baby Lettuce and questioning what was going on in the minds of me and the other person who said moist, completely ignoring the fact that someone else turned Zakuro into a professional gynecologist. The third and final part of the panel was a game of pin the tail on the Kishu, and before the audience could play, they had to choose between two drawings of Quiche that Ichigo had on her iPad. One was an actually fairly decently drawn one, and the other one was this. Unsurprisingly, the doofy looking Quiche ended up winning by a landslide. It wasn't a fair choice. At one point I leaned in toward Platty and whispered Keiichiro is the only one who has the cake, and she made this wheezing noise. The prize was the Tokyo Mew Mew New official guidebook, and when Ichigo asked who wanted to go first, Platty raised her hand. So I raised it up even higher because I felt like she deserved to be picked since Quiche is her favorite character, and then I brought her up to the stage when she got chosen. She ended up getting the sticker super close to the target and setting the bar really high for everyone else afterward, so she was just sitting there and watching the rest of the crowd play. The characters would spin them around before they approached the iPad to place their stickers, and they had a choice of which one they wanted to spin them, and Quiche got involved a few times and spun them super hard. Then once everyone had a turn, they brought out the other Quiche doodle for a tiebreaker, and unfortunately Platty ended up losing to someone else. I was like, I'm so sad you didn't win the art book, and she was just like, you were the one who dragged me into this, literally. Honestly, I feel like 90% of this day was me being babysat by Platty while I was being a chaotic hooligan. Although later on she said, screw the art book, I got to watch a bunch of people making jokes about Quiche's butt. I used this time to catch up on social media and saw that one of the regulars on the Tokyo Mew Mew Power Discord was also in attendance. So when the Tokyo Mew Mew panel ended, I made sure to get a group photo of her with me and Platty. It was so cool to meet two people I knew online in real life. Afterwards, Platty gave out the rest of her Tokyo Mew Mew News sticker packs to the Keiichiro cosplayer so he could disperse them, as well as links to Hika Yagami's social media so he could have context for why she was so happy to see him and Mint dancing earlier. And with that, our day at Metrocon had come to an end. Platty's niece was thinking of going to a fire show that was starting soon, but at this point it was pretty late and everyone else had a long drive ahead of them, so it ended up not happening. It was also around this point that I realized I had barely taken any pictures of the Shiromarami Gurumi, so I tried to compensate for that before I left by taking a bunch of last minute pictures of anything I could think of, but they ended up being subpar since I was trying to do it out of obligation. So I'll leave you with some B-roll footage of what I was able to get of the two of them. So I went over to the concession stand because they had a big thing of Lay's potato chips there, so I wanted to take some pictures of him there with them as a joke. And then the lady at the concession stand gave me a free pretzel. Thank you, Hifumi, for this unintended blessing. I hope you'll share it. This part came to me at the last minute and I didn't write it down in my script, so I have to figure out how I'm going to word it without sounding like I'm having a stroke. Also, like I said before, I was really hoping to meet Ali-chan in person, and if I did, then I had a gift set aside for her that I wanted to give her. But if she didn't end up showing up, which I was worried would happen since she didn't post about it on her social media, then I would give the gift for Platy so she could give it to one of her friends when she got back. And it was only when we had all gotten in our cars and were ready to go home that I realized that I had forgotten to give Platy the gift I set aside for her. So I saw their car driving off in the parking garage, and I had to chase them down so that I could give them the present. I was so glad that I was able to catch them in time, because I wouldn't have forgiven myself if I had forgotten to give it to them. But at the same time, I probably jump scared them when they saw this strange person following them in their dash. Oh my goodness. Overall, I had a really good day, and I hope you enjoyed this silly little video. I hope that I can do something like this in the future again, going to other anime conventions with friends. And there's still a few minutes left of the speed paint, so when that's done, I'll come back to share everything I got throughout the day. So enjoy the rest of the video, and I'll see you in a bit. Hello there. I have returned with my convention spoils. These aren't going to be shown in any particular order. I'm basically choosing everything based on what I grabbed first off my desk. Also, we tried our best to credit all of the artists we got their work from, but there were a couple that we weren't able to find, so if you recognize anyone whose name isn't on the screen, please let me know in a comment and I'll be sure to pin it so other people can find them. First things first, we have the Danganronpa charms I bought for myself of Tsumugi and Hifumi by Cherry Pie Art. They're both so adorable in this art style and I love how their poses unintentionally mirror each other. Cherry Pie said that I was the first one to buy Hifumi from them, which I have a feeling is a sentence I'm going to be hearing a lot more often in the future. So I'm really sad I didn't find this artist's name, but they were selling prints and charms of the Dark Kingdom villains from Sailor Moon, and I knew right away that I had to get their charms of Zoisite and Kunzite. When I was in high school, Kunzoi was my OTP of OTP, so buying merch of my two favorite Sailor Moon villains was a must. From Apari Art, I got this absolutely gorgeous chibi Milky Way decal. I hope you like Galaxy aesthetic because you're going to be seeing it a lot throughout this haul. Honestly, they had so many cute things for sale that I would have bought up half the merch if I could. I reluctantly passed on their Astronaut Kuro plushie and I low-key want to buy it from their online store now. Then I got this Constellation Fish lanyard from Round and Talented, and these 3 gummy bear resin magnets from Crimson Bones. Speaking of bears, I found an artist named Panda Gyoza who was selling double-sided charms of every Super Smash Bros. Ultimate character, so I immediately got Banjo and Kazooie. They were also selling this super cute decal of Sasha from Animal Crossing New Horizons, and I made sure to get him too. When I found Toaster Kiwi, the thing that grabbed my attention the most were these Tamagotchi charms and sticker sets, so I chose the Kirby one. You are able to mix and match different stickers with the Tamagotchi shells, and the idea is to put the sticker in the middle of the charm where the screen is, but they're too cute to actually use, so I want to keep them all together on the same sheet. Unfortunately, again, I wasn't able to get the name of this artist, but they had a bunch of resin crafts available, and I got their Purple Crescent Moon and Cloud standee, and then I got this mini print from Moshi Melon. Shifting away from the Artist Alley stuff for a bit, these were some of the things I picked up from the other side of the merchant's hall. So we have some Pusheen pins, a pom-pom pudding badge, and a rainbow drip pouch. And the last item I purchased was actually the first one of the day, which is this Asexual Pride goodie bag containing 2 stickers and a badge. Moving on to some freebies, during the pin trading event someone gave me this UFO bunny pin. It was made of plastic and not enamel, so they didn't feel like it was eligible for trading, so I got to take it off their hands for free. Then when I found the people with the ring full of super cute pins, I got this Frog Prince one from Blush Sprout and this Artist Moon Bunny one from Brightback Designs. And this little guy is the very first item I got that day. So when everyone was waiting in line at the parking garage, there was a no-face cosplayer who came up to us, and because we were the first people to recognize her cosplay, she gave us her own no-face wood carving on the house. And at the end of the day, Platy gave me one of her origami envelopes containing the Tokyo Mimi New sticker she made. I did such a bad job showing them off, I'm so sorry. Speaking of Tokyo Mew Mew, before the smoothie event started, Keiichiro was handing out these ribbon flyer tickets to everyone in the audience. And lastly for this haul was when Platy and I exchanged gifts when we first met up that day, and she gave me this unfathomably squishy skein of purple yarn to practice crochet with. But wait, there's more! Also, I had my 3DS in sleep mode the entire time I was at the convention, so I could see if I could street pass anyone, and when I got home I saw that there was a green light in the notification bar, so we'll see who I found. I would have been so disappointed if I went the whole day without street passing anyone, because considering how upset people were at the 3DS and Wii U eShops closing down, you would think that people would still be using these consoles, so if I encountered nobody who was using them, then that would have been extremely upsetting. Ooh, let's see who we have. To the plaza, away! To the plaza, away! 10 people? Holy frick, that's awesome! Good game. Oh, there's Platy. There's a familiar face. I wonder how many of these are repeat ones. We'll just have to find out. Oh, right, I've never had that before. Obviously, because it says that this is the first time this has happened. Oh, sweet, a new stay! Poggers. I like video games. Nah, I couldn't tell at all, man. Ooh, Chrono Trigger again. I like drawing, me too. Squishy! GG. Nintendo eShop, same. Oh, I love the little bubble date shows. That's so cute. Oh, that's a good game. What? Also, the custom phrase that I chose is kind of an inside joke. Also, out of all of those people, I only had 2 repeats. That's really good. I gotta go to conventions more often. I need puzzle pieces, man. I am Fred, the blue-haired waitress. What will be your order, mademoiselle? I gotta give her a fantastic rating. They have a name of an eldritch god. That's fantastic. Okay, I really want to check all of this stuff out, but I really gotta see if there's anybody in my Tomodachi Life campsite that I haven't seen before. Let's see. I don't want to listen to the news just yet, I'm sorry. 5 boats? What the frick? Oh, there's Platy again. Next. On an island, yes. Goodbye. Luna Island. Ooh, spiderweb t-shirt, that's rad. Give me all the import items. I have such a bad habit of deleting save data for games that I haven't played in a really long time, but I am absolutely determined not to do that with Tomodachi Life because I've done it before and I regret it so much. But now I absolutely can't delete my save data because I have Shaquille O'Neal living on my island and I can't re-download him again if I lose him. Be free. I'm sorry, that was probably really loud. Oh, that is a fantastic name. Hold on, I need a minute. There's only one more after this and I'm losing it. There's one more. There's one more. Goodbye. Return to butthole. Mima. Monkey hats. I can't. This is the last one. Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, I can't do this. I'm laughing too much. This video has been going on for too long. It's gotta stop. Thank you so much for watching until the end of this extremely long and horribly belated video. I hope you found it enjoyable and my questionable taste in anime ships didn't put you off too badly. I hope you have a great week and a lovely start to your August. And until next time, bye!